18 years ago, Mom had an affair, and I'm the result. Dad just told me he won't pay for my college, but he did for my siblings. I'm in a total mess right now. My heart is filled with a jumble of emotions that I can hardly sort out. It's just so overwhelming. Both my older brother and sister attended the same college. My brother graduated 2 years ago, and my sister will graduate in 2 years. Dad took care of all their college expenses without a hitch. I mean, everything from rent, food, cars, to pocket money. He never let them worry about a thing. My brother has a good job now, his own place, and he's living happily with his fiancée. My sister also has a well-paying job, and Dad still pays for almost all her needs. I got accepted into that very college, which was always the plan. I was really looking forward to discussing the next steps with my parents and asking them to support me just like they did for my siblings. I had always taken it for granted that they had set aside money for my college education, just as they had for my brother and sister. But instead, I was hit with a bombshell. Dad told me that Mom had an affair and that I was the result of that. And he said he wasn't willing to support me for college anymore. His face was so solemn, and his words were like daggers to my heart. He also said that Mom had 18 years to let me know and prepare me for the future, but she never did. He felt it wasn't his place to say anything since I'm not his biological son, and he didn't want to interfere with Mom's parenting. It turns out that my grandparents knew I wasn't Dad's biological child, but they kept it from me too. I felt so betrayed and alone. How could everyone know but me? I was like a fool living in ignorance. My siblings were just as shocked as I was. There had never been any sign or hint before. I used to think I had a wonderful relationship with Dad. We used to go to sports games together, and our fishing trips on weekends were some of the best memories. When I had trouble with math, Dad being an engineer, he was really good at it. He would patiently tutor me. He even taught me how to drive. He always talked about me with such pride, explaining the meaning of my name and sharing stories about me. I never sensed any resentment from him. So when I heard this news, I felt like my world had crumbled. The disappointment and pain were almost unbearable. Mom, on the other hand, just kept crying and saying sorry. But those words were empty. She had no idea how to actually help me. I was angry at her for what she had done and for keeping it a secret all these years. I was also terrified and confused about my future. I wasn't sure if I still belonged in this family. I was ashamed to even leave my room. And if they asked me to move out, I had nowhere to go. I only had about $400 in savings, which was hardly enough for anything. I locked myself in my room for days, not knowing what to do. I kept asking myself if I should apologize to Dad and what I could possibly say. I was completely at a loss. To make things worse, my grandpa passed away at the beginning of this week. It felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it all. However, I managed to talk to both Mom and Dad later. Thanks to the help and advice from the comments I received, I found the courage to have those conversations. I now understand that both of my parents do love me, and what happened 2 weeks ago was just an overreaction during their fight. It's amazing that strangers could understand my situation so well from just a few lines I wrote. Many of their comments were right on the mark. I tried to read all the comments, but there were just too many. I think I only got through about 40% before giving up. The good news is that I'm still going to college, the one I've always dreamed of, and I'll have a similar experience as my siblings. The money for college is there. Our family isn't going bankrupt, as some feared. Dad was just under a lot of stress from Grandpa's passing and the fight with Mom, which made him lose control of his emotions. Even if Dad had stuck to his initial decision, Grandma told me that Grandpa left a sum of money for me and my siblings to split. It's enough to cover my college costs. Looking back, it was just bad timing. My parents had just had a fight, and then I came in asking about college tuition. Mom said that they were talking about us kids, and she might have said something like, "Think about when I came back pregnant and you wanted to split up." I wasn't there, but that's what she told me. I guess Dad was expressing his pride in us, and Mom's words were misinterpreted. Dad thought she was saying the affair was a good thing, and then their fight escalated. Mom said something like, "What makes you think any of them are yours?" And that's when everything spiraled out of control. And then I showed up right in the middle of it all. Since then, Mom and Dad have made up, but Mom is still having a hard time dealing with everything, and Dad is also struggling to cope with Grandpa's passing. I talked to my siblings too. My sister was furious and gave our parents an earful on the phone and then rushed over. My brother was calmer, but he also made his feelings clear when he got home. Grandpa's passing somehow calmed the situation a bit, and everyone's focus shifted to dealing with his death. Reading the comments was an eye-opening experience. I realized how naive and unprepared I was for the real world. Many people asked how I didn't know about applying for loans or grants. Well, for years, I thought my college was all taken care of, and I didn't have to worry about such things. I knew other students had to deal with loans, but I never thought it would apply to me. I went from being excited about college to being told, "You're not my son, and I won't pay for your college in less than 24 hours. Others might have been more prepared, knowing they had to get a job, find a place to live, or apply for loans. But I was like a sheltered child, suddenly thrown into a storm, completely lost. But the comments weren't all bad. I made a list of useful tips, like what part-time jobs are suitable for students, how to find affordable housing, and how to get a credit card, open a bank account, and set up a cell phone plan. These will definitely be helpful, even after things get back to normal. Some people in the comments were really harsh on my parents, and it was uncomfortable to read. I can't even imagine what else was in the remaining comments. Dad has apologized to me several times, realizing he overreacted and hurt me. I understand he was under a lot of stress, but the pain and confusion I felt still linger. However, I also know that our family bond is strong, and we'll get through this. This won't completely ruin our relationship. Mom is slowly coming to terms with everything and has started answering some of my questions. Mom told me that after she had the affair and got pregnant with me, my parents started divorce proceedings. She moved in with a man, but he soon kicked her out. She had nowhere to go, so my grandparents took her in. In our family culture, grandparents sometimes refer to their grandchildren as nephews. After a lot of work, Mom and Dad got back together, and Dad accepted me as his own. That's how my life has been until now. I don't have any desire to find out about my biological father. I've thought about it in the past 2 weeks, and I just don't care. I don't want to know who he is, where he is, or if he's still alive. Some people suggested I get a DNA kit from 23andMe, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to disrupt my current life. I have a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister, and that's my family. Going forward, I plan to get a job and become more independent. But it's not to distance myself from my family. It's to make sure I can survive on my own if something unexpected happens and my family isn't around. Mom admits that they spoiled me more than my siblings and should have prepared me better for the future. Now I know where I stand with my family. I'm loved and I have options. I thought I was alone, but I have more support than I realized. My grandparents, siblings, aunt, and cousins are all there for me. I know my parents are human and make mistakes. Although this was a difficult time, I'm choosing to see it as a bump in the road of an otherwise good relationship.